G'day folks, I've got an unboxing here from Now Store and this is an oldie but a goodie. Let me get into it. Alright, so you can see here there's 3 puzzles and I've bought this partly because I wanted the puzzles and you'll know why very soon. But also it's a little bit of a blast from the past and I wanted to show, as it were, a new generation, if I hadn't seen it, what you can do with these puzzles. So this first one here, this is a crazy pentahedron. You can see on the box we've got 8 planets. There's 4 there. You probably can't see exactly what they are, but they've all got different configurations. Now if I open this up, which one did I buy? So this here you can see is the standard pentahedron. So this has all non-circle faces all the way around. And you can see this puzzle turns like that. So it turns on the side faces, so you can turn it there, but nothing will happen. You won't be able to do any more turns. And it also turns on these top and bottom faces, if you like. So this is the standard pentahedron. Now I bought this because previously I had purchased the Earth pentahedron. And what I've been able to do now, and what I'm going to show you about, is making the entire set from these two. I'm going to do it very quickly. So let's have a look at the Earth first. The Earth has a configuration where the top face is a 0 face, the bottom face is a 0 face, the blue is a 0, the white is a 1, and the orange is a 1. So you'll see that it doesn't actually matter that the white is a 1 and the blue is a 0. It could be the opposite, but as long as we've got 0 and 1 faces there, we can change them around. You might be wondering, what's this about stickerless? Why have I gone for stickerless? Well, when they first came out, they were available in black plastic and stickerless. At the moment, they are not available in black plastic. So the stickerless is the option. I know a lot of people just prefer black plastic and that's all they want to buy. And I'm kind of one of them. But when it comes to puzzles like this, I'm absolutely not fussy. And I would totally recommend delving into stickerless, at least for puzzles like this. The huge advantage is there are no stickers to peel off, obviously. I really want to encourage you, if you haven't got stickerless puzzles at all and you're thinking of doing something like this, go for these. I don't know how long these will last, so let's get to it. So here on the Earth we've got both the yellow and the purple being 0 faces, so they're going to have a particular type of center. What I want to do is compare that to the center that's on this face, because you'll notice that there's no circle here. So we want to have a look, is this different from this, and what does that mean in terms of making the full set? One way you can do it is just move that down and push it in there. It becomes quite simple then to jimmy that edge up. And with that edge out of the way, you can very clearly see, that's where I've got to get this in to move that. Okay, once that's done, just unscrew the screw. Now, if you're very clever, and I'm not normally, you can find a way to get this and the center part out without disturbing the rest of the pieces, but it's a little bit tricky. I'm going to give it a go here. Now I've got that part out, and you can see there is still a little piece of the puzzle sitting in there. So sometimes it'll come out with it, sometimes not. So what I'm going to have to do here is just remove enough of these things. That's the little piece that's sitting in there. So if you can then find a way to grab that, sometimes you can do it by just sticking this in and pulling it out. But what I've found generally is it's far easier to throw caution to the wind and say, you know what, it's not too difficult to get them back on. So I'm going to take all of them out, make it much easier. And this normally will then just, I'm just being a little bit delicate here. I don't want to make everything go. So that's the position that that center was. That's a 0 center. And if I want to change this to a 1 face center, all I need to do is discard this part. So as in, don't throw it out, just put it somewhere else. When I put that back in, it is going to become a 1 face center. And I certainly will put that back in soon and show you. Before I do that, let's have a look at the same center on this puzzle here. I'll just remove that edge. This one's much easier to come out. There's no little bit on the bottom there. So I'll just put that aside. What you can see straight away is that, remember, this has come from the standard puzzle, no circles. This is a completely different shaft from the other one. So if I just compare those two shafts, you can hopefully see that. This one is cylindrical, this one is sort of a triangular prism type shaft. This one here that's just come from the standard, it is one piece. There's no way that I can get that off or anything. So we're fixed with this. So with this one, I said that in order to make this into a one face, you needed to discard this piece here. So if you were to get a puzzle that had circles on the sides, but no circles on top and bottom, what you're going to get is on top and bottom, you're going to have this here. There is no way to turn that into a zero face. So the takeaway here is that in order to turn, or if you want to turn zeros into ones on top and bottom, you can. If you want to turn ones into zeros, you cannot. And for that reason, you're going to need to get a circle puzzle which has both zero faces top and bottom. Because my earth puzzle has zero faces top and bottom, I can't confirm for sure whether the one centers are this. I suspect they are. So I suspect if we had a puzzle which had, say, a 0 for the yellow, a 1 for the purple, that's what would be used in the one face. Don't know for sure, but to be on the safe side, you've got to say, right, I need 0 on top, 0 on bottom, because I know that those 0 faces can be turned into one faces. So let me put this back together for now, the standard. Okay, that standard one is back together. What I'm going to do now is grab the circle one, and as I said, I've discarded that little piece, so I'm just going to put it back in like this, and we'll see what difference that makes. Okay, so this is all back together. There's that little piece that I took off, and you can see that yellow face is now an honest to goodness one face, no more zero face. So really simple. The purple has not been touched, and that is still a zero face. So very simple to remove that piece, and you've got yourself a one face. All right, what about the side faces? So I've talked about top and bottom, side faces here. Quite a bit easier to deal with and to remove things. As far as I remember, yeah, that just pulls off like that. I'll take the screw off. Actually, before I do, let's remember the white face here is a one face. The blue, yeah, so the blue is a 0. This white that I'm looking at is a one face. So we'll keep that in mind. Now, when we pull this white center out, I can't really rest it like this. Even if I rest it like that, one of the little bits is probably going to fall. Well, maybe not. That is the piece that emerges. So remember, the white was a 1. Now, you'll notice here that it emerged really easily, so there's no need to go digging around or taking any other pieces. It comes in 2 parts. That's the main shaft, and then you've got this little piece here. And you'll notice that it was the cylindrical part was pointing downwards. Now, if I rotate that like that and then put it back on, that is all I have to do to change this to a 0 face. So now that the cylinder is pointing upwards, this is going to be a 0 face, and I'll put it back in and demonstrate that. That cap back on, give it a twist, and you can see that is now absolutely a 0 face. The center parts there are not moving at all. So again, really simple to do. So the takeaway so far is, in order to get the full set, we are going to need 0 faces on top and bottom, and we need either 1s or 0s on the side for the circle parts. That's the pentahedra. Let's revisit them right at the end. We've got these 2 octahedra. I'm going to do something similar with these. Let's get this center out. All right, the first thing you'll notice with this one, this is a Venus puzzle, which means that all the faces were 0 faces. So the center parts, the circle parts stayed fixed, and we turn the face. So this is what happens when you've got that. You've got 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, that are kind of holding this green core-ish part together. And you'll notice that for a 0 face, this is firmly fixed here. Now what you need to do to change this to a 1 face is the following. Firstly, you can sort of just jiggle that around and it becomes loose, no problem. So we then want to undo these screws purely so we can get this out of here. So once that's done, you don't want to undo it so much that it falls apart, but just enough so that you can do that. Now, you'll notice here there's a little screw. There's two parts here, but this time there's a screw holding this bottom part in. So let's undo that screw. Okay, now remember this is how it was for a zero face. We've kind of got this triangular bit at the bottom. With the pentahedron, we discarded the part. We do not want to discard this part once we get it off. You can see the cylindrical shaft has gone straight into there. We turn it over. Now, it should be very obvious that this is not really designed to go in like this. So when they made these, they're not thinking about people doing what I'm doing. However, if you just sort of slot it in there, you can then get the screw and screw it back in. It's not, I mean, I can jiggle that a little bit and I could probably try tightening it a tad more. It's about as much as it's going. It doesn't really matter if you can jiggle it like that because this will still work just fine. So what we want to do now, you might be thinking, do I need to line these up with the little triangular bits? No, it doesn't make any difference. So now that you've done that, put it back in. Just keep note of the fact that for the zero face, we had those little protrusions here and they were sticking upwards. Now they're sticking downwards. So you can see where the protrusions went. 1, 2, 3. They are not going to come into things now at all because those little parts are not sticking upwards anymore. So we just put that back in there. There's no point trying to lift this up and kind of put it in there. It doesn't make any difference. What you want to do essentially is to just find an edge. So let's say that I find the white blue to begin with, and the bits for that, I would probably just start by putting that there, grab a white edge piece, and this is almost the only tricky bit, is just getting it so that that lifts the center up in that manner. And you can see now that is what causes the center to stay upright. It's not the little protrusions, it's just being held by that edge piece. Once you've got that, you can just rebuild all the rest around it. And you remember that we began with this being a zero face and all the others were zero faces like this one here, those center parts remaining fixed. Well, just by flipping over that little bit, this has now, the white face has now turned into a one face where the circle or the center parts are moving with the face. Now, with that being done, you might be thinking, righto, so what do we need to do? Well, the standard version has all faces being two faces with no circles at all. This version here, this is the Venus, and every face has a zero center or a zero face. This is the only puzzle which has all circle faces. So when you look at the Jupiter, the Mercury, the Mars, and the Saturn, you'll notice that each of them has some faces which are non-circle faces and some faces which are circle faces. Now, I can't confirm for sure, but I suspect that any one circle faces will be able to be turned to zero faces. And what that means is technically you could buy, for example, if you look at the Jupiter and the Saturn, they have alternate or opposite faces being two faces and circle faces. So possibly you could do that and mix and match what you need to. But I think for absolute guaranteed safety, what you need to do is buy the standard version and the Venus version, because you will then have whatever faces you want to be circle faces on this one, you'll have them there, and then you'll simply replace those circle faces with the non-circle faces from here. These pieces just mix and match, and that's how you're going to get the whole set. And the same thing will happen with the Pentahedra. So on these puzzles, if we wanted to have a puzzle where I had the circle faces on the sides, but I had these faces on top and bottom, all I need to do is just change these pieces here, exchange them with the circle pieces. They just pull apart. You can absolutely do it, no problem. I don't want to make this video longer than it is by showing that, but it is 100% possible. Same thing with the side faces. I'm not saying it's a 2-second job. It does take a little bit of time to do. However, if you want to get the full set of Pentahedra, you want to get the full set of these Octahedra, you only want to spend the money on 2 puzzles, that is the way you do it. So, to be really clear, for the Octahedra, you will need the Venus puzzle and the standard puzzle. For the Pentahedra, you will need the standard pentahedron, and there are only 2 options that you can get for the circle one. I either need to get the Earth, as I've done here, or the Uranus puzzle, because those are the two puzzles that have both top and bottom as 0 faces. And you remember we can change 0 faces to 1 faces, but we cannot change 1 faces to 0 faces. So for example, if you were to buy the Mars, you would have all circle parts, but the yellow face would be a 1 face, and therefore that would always be a 1 center. You would not be able to make Earth or Uranus. Whereas if you have the Earth, you can make Earth, Uranus, Mars, Neptune, and in fact all of the others. I hope that helps. I'll leave very clear instructions in the description and of course links to buy these puzzles. I highly recommend that you do. Don't be put off by the sticker list. It's a great thing when you're changing and mixing and matching. I hope this has helped, and as always, thanks for watching.